scientific data a lot of the times and publications. So there are some delays expected, and we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, that's generally what we're looking for. However, there are exceptions. Again, the sensitive information that we deal with, things like human data, needs to be protected within the rights of the individuals and ethically managed, as we just talked about. Traditional, indigenous, or local knowledge. Again, the rights of the knowledge holders will not be compromised. That's an exception. If data or the release of it may cause harm or compromise security or safety of, again, wildlife or people, they need to be protected as well. And if the pre-existing data are subject to restrictions. So if you're working on a project, say using human health data or using traditional knowledge, and they have access restrictions on them, you can't just produce something new from those without dealing with and acknowledging the previous restrictions. So projects that build on restricted data need to recognize the restrictions on that information and, again, do it ethically and properly. So there is some delay expected in terms of uploading data in particular. There's no need to delay creating your meta files or metadata entries, fixing my vocabulary as well, as you can see, because those don't require the actual data files to be produced yet. The metadata, again, is data about the project itself and the information that will be contained within the data. So we do allow a delay so that the project leaders can review results with the communities and partners. That should always happen first before any reports, publications, presentations, things like that. You need to make sure that the people that contribute to the project and that are affected by the results are informed of the results first. And if that needs to be done in conjunction with the regional contaminants committees, with the Inuit research advisors if they're in those regions, and if there's sensitive information like something approaching or exceeding a health guideline, health authorities need to be involved in those discussions as well. So those are just reminders that, again, your communications with the communities and partners are very important, but again, they need to go through the proper channels as well. And again, there's an expected delay for publication. Obviously, scientific publications take time to write, but the data should be made available in a reasonable time frame. Like 10 years is a long time to not be uploading data, for example. Keep it reasonable. Really, the results are only useful if they're available to those that are affected by them. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about your data management section of the proposal in coming years and data management for your projects going forward as well. So this is not an exhaustive example. I just wanted to provide some examples of some ways that, NCP data or information could be used and is used often. So the main way is to address our mandates. The main objective for the NCPs, as many of you know or have seen, to reduce and, if possible, eliminate contaminants in traditional foods. Obviously, elimination is difficult or maybe impossible, but we always provide information on the contaminants to individuals and communities so they can inform their food choice decisions, which is where this comes into play. Obviously, the information needs to be available and accessible for them to make these food choice decisions. So that is the main way in which NCP data is used. This little flow chart shows some other options. So first, after generating your data and results, you should review those results with the communities and partners. And then the reports and publications that may result from that data, again, should be shared and reviewed with the communities, partners, and the regional contaminants committees. From there, there's a number of different ways that the data can be used. So on a national scale, and local community presentations and outreach with the communities that you've worked in, things at schools, hunters and trappers organizations, things like that. The engagement and outreach side of the NCP. If there's a contaminant that is exceeding or approaching levels of concern, then there might be a local or regional risk assessment needed. That would be initiated through the project leaders with us at the Secretariat, the regional contaminants committees, and then the regional health authorities will review the information. And if they deem that it needs to be assessed further based on consumption guidelines and things like that, it would go to Health Canada, and then it proceeds from there. And again, that's a multi-faceted process with the regions involved very heavily in that. We also produce the NCP synopsis of research every year. We're behind on these. They are forthcoming very soon. We'll start picking up the pace on getting those out. And we also produce Canadian Arctic Contaminant Assessment Reports, or CACARs. The last one was 2017, but we will be starting to work on a new one very shortly as well. And so those are, again, nice compilations of a lot of information produced by the NCP in a given year or over a given period on a certain topic. The last CACAR was 2017, was on human health. And then occasionally we're requested to provide information, expertise, or other, or recommend experts or the people to work with evaluations and assessments by other government partners. For example, Environment Canada does performance measurement evaluations on a number of metals. And often they request any information or referrals to experts on those topics. On the international scale, again, Simon, I don't know if you want to say anything about this at all, but we contribute to AMAP assessments. Canada's a huge contributor to those most times, and also not just the assessments, but monitoring guidance, like the plastics documents that were produced recently. And then those are also produced as summaries for policymakers.
I'm happy, Adam, that you've covered it.
Yeah, okay, great. The effectiveness evaluations of things like the Minamata Convention on Mercury or the Stockholm Convention on Persistent Organic Pollutants also require very, again, very accurate and detailed contaminant information. And so again, as requested, we often contribute to those. But again, they're often looking for reports or publications that result from the data already. And then they use those to assess whether or not the regulations on specific contaminants are being effective, and effectiveness evaluation over time. And many of the POPs that have been listed in the Stockholm Convention and then regulated by various countries that are signatories have been decreasing in the environment, wildlife, and humans for a number of years. So these regulations do work, and the contributions of data from organizations like the NCP do make a big difference. AMAP also contributes data to the Minamata and the Stockholm Conventions directly. It's often a really convenient way to do that because they have already compiled the circumarctic information in one place, and it's been peer reviewed and everything else. So that's just a few of the ways that the NCP contributes to the national and international communities based on the work that we're doing here. So that is really just my overview of, again, a number of the data management kind of principles and where the data goes. And with that, I will hand it over to Chantel to take you through the new Polar Data Catalog and its features. And yeah, I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I will turn off my camera. And please, yeah, any questions we'll address right at the end of the meeting.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Adam. That was very informative even for us over at PDC. So really appreciate you taking the time to put that together. Let's see if I can get my screen to share. It's definitely taking a bit right now.
Chantel, if you want, I can try and take a stab at just showing some of the new content. I'm not sure if the share will work for me, but I could give it a try if you want.
Yeah, please. That's probably a great start. I don't know if it's gonna.
So sorry, are you able to, is anyone able to see my browser?
You can see your screen, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I can see it.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, it's a little, I think we're used to using sort of the Teams desktop app, so we're thrown off by some of the controls here. So you may or may not be familiar with the existing Polar Data Catalog, depending if you're, a user, contributor, et cetera. But one of the things that we've been working on is getting an updated, sort of the core website landing page area and really updating the look and feel. So this is what I'm running here is the not yet released but soon to be released version of what the updated PDC landing area would look like. I really had hoped to actually have everything fully deployed for this event, but we've had a lot of things on the infrastructure side. So not PDC things, but University of Waterloo infrastructure things that have prevented kind of a full deploy. But I'm going to give everyone kind of a little sneak peek / walkthrough here on my local host version, which is not exactly the same as a fully deployed server version, but you can kind of get a pretty good sense. So you can see it's a little bit of an updated look and feel. It's not radically different, but you can see across the top there are some repository metrics, and these actually update in real time. So if there are contributions, if somebody submits metadata and it becomes approved, then that will get updated automatically. Some quick links here on the side, really based on feedback, and happy to hear other feedback about what things could maybe additionally be in here. So there's a little preamble about the catalog itself, and then we have some options: a find data, visualize data, submit data. So submit data, this is really, if you're familiar with what's currently out there right now, this is really the same as the input data option, which will take you to PDC input. And Chantal's going to talk about that and show some things about that regarding submissions for metadata and data. So I'm not going to go into that one. Visualize data. So this really just links out to existing visualizations that we have, but they're sort of taking off that main landing page to, make it a little bit less busy and make things easier to see. We have some new things. This is not also not something that's publicly released. This is a bit of a slow loading viz because it's on just a.
I think we lost your share screen there.
Sorry?
I think we lost the share screen for you.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Let me see if I can jump back and. Okay, sorry. Is that better?
Yep, there it is. Thank you.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, this is another visualization that we have in progress right now. So this is an alternative way to find potentially metadata or data sets of interest. So right now you can see it's set up for Almost in Science. You can pick different programs that might be of interest. This will update in real time. There are a lot of other different things you can do. There's a tag search here. There are date ranges, different things. You can quickly click over to a tabular view, and I won't spend a lot of time on this. I'll just kind of quickly show it. But one of the great things about this is that once you've found some data of interest, you can quickly grab everything and export it as a CSV. So I'm just going to jump back to the main page. So submit data goes to the current PDC input. To visualize data will take you to where we put the visualizations, and we have some exciting new things we're working on to really help the findability. Find data button will take you over to this other page, which just has a collection of additional ways to find classic PDC data. So if the geospatial search will link you to the classic PDC search page, if you're familiar with that, which has really kind of a clickable map, which is, has some differences to the one I've just shown you. The program search, that is the one that I've just shown you. And the low bandwidth search is the classic PDC Lite. And then we have a couple of new things here. So there are some metadata APIs. So PDC has its own dedicated metadata API, and then there's also one that we've developed in conjunction with CCADI. So I'll just jump over here. So if you're not familiar with what an API is, it's an application program interface. And the takeaway for that is really that it is, you can certainly use it as a human user, but it's really often quite powerful for scripting the acquisition of metadata. So it really provides you with HTTP endpoints that you can navigate to, or more realistically, a script that you've written can go and harvest metadata. So we're really excited about that. It's really powerful. So there is a JSON version and an XML version, and there are a variety of endpoints. So you can sort of use this first one where you harvest things by page. If likely you're trying to acquire the entire collection, if you have a specific metadata record you're interested in, you can use this by ID endpoint. You can also grab things by name. So for example, you want all of the NCP metadata records, you can grab those using this endpoint. You can find things by title, and then there's also this since endpoint. So that's meant to be kind of a delta thing. So if I have the entire collection, then maybe once a month I run a script that says, give me everything since, within the last month. So I'll just jump in and we can actually take a really quick peek. Hopefully this runs well on a local host thing. Again, this is not really, it's not really meant so much for human use, but you can see that. So in this case, it's asking for the first page of metadata. So it's page 0. You can see if you're familiar with JSON, you get this nice JSON response. This, in addition, the JSON that's contained here is actually marked up as well with schema.org tags, which makes it really, really helpful and really powerful. So that's one more feature so the metadata API for PDC is another feature that we have done. We're in the process of releasing that right now, and we would like that to be conjunctive with this new landing page. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea, a sneak peek of what things will look like very, very soon at PDC. Chantel today is going to show you I think some of the things she's going to do with respect to creating metadata and submitting data are going to be via the PDC inputs that's there right now. And that actually won't change after this page is deployed. You would just access PDC input via the submit data button. But some of the other features will change, and we're excited about the API and the general findability of metadata and data. And I'm really, very open to feedback and strongly welcome any additional feedback. Also, just a quick note too, we do have a YouTube channel as well. So that has handy things on it.
Great. Thank you, Greg. Chantal, how are we doing with the
Great. It seems like it just had to force an update because that's what they like to do now. But it looks like we are ready to go. Hopefully you guys can see my screen now.
we're looking at your screen though, not the presentation screen. Like we can see your tabs in the side.
Okay, yeah. Should expand. For the demos and stuff, we will be looking at the browser, so it should be okay.
Okay, just making sure. Excellent. Okay, I'll keep quiet now.
No, you're all good. Thank you. So yeah, welcome everybody. Thank you so much, Greg, for jumping in as I had the technical difficulties, and for demoing the new PDC interface. It's very exciting. The team here has been working super hard on it, so it's great to be able to show it off today. Perfect. So today I'm going to just kind of give a brief overview of PDC in case any of you are new, and then Adam and Greg said, I'll be going over how to actually add metadata and data files within PDC and use the search interfaces and everything like that. So first, PDC has been around since about 2007. It's hosted at the University of Waterloo, Department of Geography and Environmental Management. It's the largest polar repository in Canada currently. The team operates in the international polar data management space as well as CCADI. For those of you who don't know, it's the Canadian Consortium for Arctic Data Interoperability. So we make sure that we are staying abreast of all the different polar data management initiatives globally and actively help out where we can. Let's see. Did we lose my, sharing, okay. Of course. Okay. Can we still see the screens?
No, we lost your screen, Chantal.
So sorry about this.
It happens.
Okay, should be good now. How about that?
We're back.
Okay. And then, so the new PDC landing page, as Greg just demoed, as well as the new search options and whatnot to be released soon. So even just an introduction to Polar Data Catalog. So you might see within the PDC and elsewhere that we are also referred to CCIN, which is the Canadian Cryospheric Information Network. CCIN provides more of the usable visualizations from data, which created and kind of produced in more of a report way, where PDC is the actual data catalog. So it's the same team. Greg does a fantastic job of managing both, but that is why within the PDC, most of our records are actually labeled as CCIN and then your sign number afterwards. So as Adam did a great job earlier about kind of outlining exactly what is we're going to address today. Within PDC, you have 3 different kinds of assets. So you have your metadata record that you would create in the PDC interface. You also have data files that you can submit alongside your metadata record. And then we also provide a DOI, which is persistent identifiers. And I can go into a little bit about that in a minute as well. So creating a new metadata or meta file or modifying existing ones, we're going to just quickly demo to show everybody how to do that actually within the interface. And we do actually have some useful YouTube video tutorial videos right now up on the PDC YouTube channel that does a step-by-step walkthrough in case anybody needs to while actually completing the metadata. So let's see if I can get the demo to work without too many technical difficulties this round. Okay, so first, when logging in, this is kind of the page that you currently go to before Greg is able to release the full, the new PDC as he demoed. So we want to go to input data, and then this is where you would have the option to log into your existing account or register for PDC. So we're going to log into mine just as a demo. So this, although as I'm an administrator, this necessarily wouldn't pop up, but it is down near the bottom. These are the options that will show up in a regular user's account. So you have my existing metadata, you have your submit metadata options, and then you have your data options, you have existing submitted data that's already happened, and then you have the actual submit data. So we will go to actually submitting a new metadata record. So that's what first is going to come up is this form. This is in the ISO 19115 metadata standard. It's to describe geographic information. And then this is what a user, such as researchers or any other stakeholders who want to submit metadata, would come and input here. So I'll do a quick kind of just demo on what's supposed to go in each section, hopefully to be useful. So your title would obviously be your title. We try to make it a little bit more specific. So having your topic, year, any other specific identifying information would be important to put here. It doesn't necessarily, a lot of users tend to put the title same as, say, journal submission. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but as long as it's specific enough to be able to identify it at a later date and related to obviously your topic of your metadata, it's great. Data citation. This is one that is commonly misunderstood just along our users, but it's, you would have your last name, your first name. So it doesn't conform to, I believe it's actually close to APA, but you'd have your year here. I guess we're in 2023 now. And then the same title as above. And then it is the data citation that's going to be pointing to this exact metadata record. So that is where we have our location of PDCs at Waterloo. So that's why we have it at Waterloo. And then we're relating to the Canadian Cryospheric Information Network, which is our CCIN, as I mentioned. So this points back to this actual record here. And then you do have an option. This is where if it's published data, we would have our DOI. If it's data is not published just yet, or we're still in the process and your metadata record is available, but say your data set's not available, then we would just include an unpublished data tag. And then if, say, you do have a journal article that is published or a report further down the road, or at the time of this submission, you're able to include an additional citation or alternative citation in the same box to kind of give any users coming and looking at your metadata record the ability to kind of identify that those two related things are together. But the main data citation is important to include and point back to the PDC, as that is where any user trying to cite your actual metadata record would come and find it. Another one, so for study site, the PDC uses the Canadian Geographical Names Database. So it is actually a unique identifier related to place names in Canada. So we'll kind of hop around. This, I believe, every repository that's out there kind of does similar or may have their own strategy. Oh, of course, the web page is not working right now. Let's try this one. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so this is where you would come and put in the location of your study. So say we have Cambridge Bay, and then it actually gives a unique identifier specific to your location to be included in your metadata record. So as you can see here, you click on, say, Cambridge Bay, the actual bay, and then it gives any user the ability to actually come back to the Government of Canada key and see exactly the spatial location of the area that was studied. And then it actually gives you the unique identifier here. So this is where you would kind of copy, I believe all of them are 5-digit code, and then go back to your metadata record, and then put your Cambridge Bay here, and then you would tag your unique identifier just so any users again can go back and look at it. And then we also would be using from this the latitude and longitude. So it helps identify and keep things consistent throughout the metadata record. So even though it's further down, we will just skip over and input that. Again, just for consistency, and then by including the latitude and longitude, we are able to show it in the spatial search options, which I'll demo later in the presentation as well. So, and then here's another one. So even though it may be repetitive, if it only gives you the one or the two coordinates, right? So your north and say your west, you would just repeat the coordinates in the opposite sections, just so it would still show up within the spatial search again. Yeah, so continuing on, you are able to, sorry, real quick, for the study site, say there's multiple study sites, you're able to continue to actually tag as many as you can. There are a couple of common, I guess, gaps that can occur depending on if it's like a traditional place name. The Government of Canada place name key is fantastic, but it's not all encompassing as of yet. So if there's an instance where your place name is not showing up or included in the key yet, still included in the study site. And it can always be updated if it ever does come into the Government of Canada key. But we would still obviously like to have the study site included, even if it's not doesn't have that identifier as of yet. So for the purpose, this is where we typically want to see information regarding to the reason why the study was completed, what the study is about, reasoning why the data collection took place in the specific locations that it did, and what the data can be used for. So this can be, I can show an example of, I'll show a quick example of Omens in Science and how they fill out their metadata, just so you can kind of see what's to be included. So for their purpose statement, they provide core physical oceanographic data for all research teams on board Omens in Science. So you can see that it has what records the data were collected on, the different variables, and why they we're looking to that study area. For abstract, again, using the Ombuds and Science record, this is where you want to typically include details on how the data was collected. So more detailed information about the study site, what data was collected, so your when, where, how, your instruments used, your units of parameters measured, frequency of sampling, and methods. So typically we want to include as much information as possible to ensure a robust metadata record. So the abstract would be where you would include that information. And then your plain language summary, this is typically, if you want to use that field, you are more than welcome to, but as you can see, there's no asterisks beside it. So it's not necessarily required to submit your metadata, submit with your metadata to the PDC. But again, it's a bill. If you have any other languages that are not English that you want to include in there, feel free to use that field for that. Other fields are responsible parties. So this is including your principal investigator, original collaborator, point of contact. This is anywhere or anybody who participated that you would like to have included in the responsible parties. Anybody who is included in this section should be referenced again in your data citation at the beginning with their first name, last name, and whatnot. Now, this does apply to some of our partners, so links to data. Although not all data is submitted to the PDC alongside the current metadata records, you don't necessarily have to have both combined. You can actually create a metadata record with the PDC, but not submit your data files for whatever reason, if it's because they're hosted elsewhere in a different repository, or because it's sensitive information and researchers not comfortable. You're able to put a link to maybe where it is existing, or a link to your personal contact, or the principal investigator contact. The only problem with that is that it will be published online. Users are able to go and now have your contact information to try and see if they would qualify to gain access to your data. Or if, say, a user or a researcher switches organizations, or email addresses might not become relevant. This is a field that really should stay up to date and relevant. So say I switched to a different organization and I had metadata records that was linked to my current PDC email, I would want to come back and just ensure that yeah, my email address is relevant, so any user down the road can actually still access the data and it doesn't become outdated. So data status, this is where you can identify if your data collection is actually complete, in progress, or planned. So you're able to complete a metadata record at any stage of your project's progress. The complete status is not necessarily, or it's when your data collection is actually completed, not necessarily say you're done your publication process or reporting or anything after that. It's just if there is planned timing to actually collect more data at another time, or if your project's complete and whatnot. So that kind of relates to our maintenance and update frequency. We do have options that you can identify and tell users who are looking at your metadata record if, say, it is a yearly data collection project, or if it's irregular, depending on your project's needs, this is where you would identify it. And then we are moving down to research program. So this is where NCP, I believe, does have their own, research program. You'd be able to identify it here. And then with Greg's new project search interface that will be released, this is how you will be included, or your projects or your metadata will be included in that search that's up and coming. And then, we already kind of identified our research area, which is the area that any data or the metadata is relating to. Time period is the date related to data collection. So as we all know, planning a project can take quite some time, but this time period is related directly to the data sets collection times. And then keywords. As of right now, we are hoping for 5 or more keywords related to your metadata. So this can be geographic locations, traditional knowledge keywords, methods, natural sciences, and whatnot. So you go in. For methods, we have time-lapse photos. If there is a keyword that is not on the list that you would like to have included or associated with your metadata record, you would then select add keyword and it emails us and we can add it manually. And then as Adam did mention, our last but not least is we have options for data security. I believe there's 6 different options. So public is that any user is able to access your data openly and see your metadata record. We do have some limitations depending on if human subjects are involved, intellectual property such as local traditional knowledge, and whatnot. So you do have the option to limit the access to your data, but I would like to quickly note that your metadata record, once published, is visible no matter what. So it's this data security is limiting just the data set side of things. So you go to validate and save. It's gonna give me some arguments here, but I can go down and show you. So once you save your metadata record, it would then come and look like this. So you say metadata is in save status and must be submitted to approve and be available online. So in the save status, you can go back and forth and update however you want and at whatever frequency, but it does not come to my side to be approved until it is in the submitted status. So that's where you would go back into your metadata record. You can see it's kind of all grayed out. Your fields are all grayed out at this point. It's kind of more solidified, but you can see that we have our surface air temperature. All of the other fields are to our standards and our liking. And you would go down and then you would hit submit. There would be a submit option down here. And then that is where it would come to my side of things. I'm going to show you here. And then it comes to me to be either sent back, received, approved, and then I can actually have the ability to go in and either ask for some changes, alterations, or will you be able to actually approve it and move forward. So that's a long-winded way. I can continue on with the slideshow just to make sure that we hit all of the points that we wanted to. So just as a reminder, for a new metadata record, you go straight to submit metadata. For modifying, it would already, even at the save status, it would already be in the my metadata section. So even just a quick note about licensing, again, the 6 options. If a data set is temporarily restricted, so say a user or researcher selects the currently under analysis for publication, we just really encourage people to be able to come back and open up the data set to public when it's appropriate and you feel comfortable. So yeah, here's just a quick again, outline of exactly what's supposed to be included in each field. I am happy to share the slides after, so you can actually go back and kind of reference it. And then yeah, so that is it for our metadata records. Next, I'll try to quickly demo our data set uploads and what needs to be included. So with every data set that is associated or uploaded with a metadata record, there needs to be a README. So here at the PDC, we try to adhere to the FAIR principles as much as possible. So this includes submitting your data files in a non-proprietary format, such as your CSVs, your text files, your PDFs. Although Excel can be fantastic in some ways, unfortunately it's proprietary. So when it's submitted, it's not great for long-term preservation as Excel gets updates and whatnot. So that's why we require non-proprietary formatting. A README is kind of your roadmap to your data. So we offer templates in both the text and PDF, so your non-proprietary formats. That actually defines all acronyms, variables, any other considerations that were considered with your data while processing it. So yeah, another quick note, in our non-proprietary formats and whatnot, we try not to leave any empty cells because, again, for that long-term preservation, it can be compromised. So just in the README, identifying what impossible values may be used, such as your NAs and whatnot. But making sure it's explained in the README is a must. So what exactly is a README? This is the text example. I'm not going to read it all because that would take up a lot of time, but this is kind of the example of exactly what would be included in a README, and kind of, again, outlining, acting as that roadmap to your data. So I'll just do a quick download or quick example so you're able to see how it works. So again, my data as of right now, I don't have anything uploaded, but this is how it would show up. Now, if you had existing data files, if not, you go to submit data. So PDC is able to accommodate data files or data sets up to 500 megabytes. We do have a process for large file uploads that I'll briefly touch on in a second. But this is where you would go select the relevant metadata record that your data sets are related to. And then it would bring you to this page. So you can drag or drop files here. You can just choose from your computer. We can try and I'll just submit one real quick. And then I can always remove it after. So it does do a check for viruses. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. And then it would show up again in that first one showing your data sets. So taking a sec to check it. But again, your non-proprietary formats is key. There we go. And then you go back to your dashboard, check under your My Data. And at that stage, you don't need to hit like a submit or a saved or anything like that. It would show up on my end, and I would be able to review, reference it with your README file that would be associated with your data sets and your metadata records, and kind of just do a quality assurance fact check. So yeah, and then if there is any questions, comments, concerns related to your data set, that's where you would be receiving an email from me related to the email address associated with your user account, and then we can work on it together to make sure that everything's up to date and ready to go. So as I mentioned, there is a large file upload process. We do, like I said, PDC limits their data sets to 500 megs, and we do have a structured system for uploading larger data files using University of Waterloo Send It program. So this is where we can, if you have a couple gigs or whatnot of data files, no problem, just send us an email at either pdc@uw, like uwaterloo.ca, or myself, and our team will be able to set up a space for the upload to occur. Throughout this entire large data file upload process, our team is able to, it will automatically send you updates and notifications regarding if we've downloaded it, what stage of review and processing it's at, and whatnot. So yeah. So what happens after your metadata and data files are completed? So PDC can and does assign persistent identifiers, like I mentioned earlier on. So that is it's a unique identifier that stays assigned to your open data sets, with the exception of if a data set is restricted due to traditional knowledge or indigenous considerations, we can still assign a DOI. But in order to receive a DOI, you must email us just to let us know that that is something that you would like to be done, like to have done. And once a DOI is assigned, the data files have to remain static. So what does this mean? Once it's uploaded, there's no alterations or adjustments that can be made. If there is, say, there was a typo in a data file that you want to fix, or a column header, maybe more data to be added, we would now switch to a versioning strategy. So we do have that on our help page that kind of outlines exactly how to go about that. And then I would update the citation within your metadata record, which I first mentioned, on how to actually or so you can actually use it and have that data, a DOI associated with your metadata, sorry. So we can do a quick demo on how to actually use PDC and our search options. So this is the current user interface. This is what Greg has been updating, which is fantastic. Like I said, this is the new user interface, but we'll do a quick demo on what it currently looks like. So we'll go to our search. So for polar data catalog, you go to just your regular metadata search. You're able to use multiple different ways. So we do have temporal, spatial searches, keywords, and then you can actually use your CCIN one. So for just a quick demo, you can actually click a record or click a bounding box. If you say, hey, I just really want to find data in this one specific area, you hit search. And then it will bring up all metadata records that we have available. So in order to actually look at the metadata records, say you're really interested in this one, it will now show up and you can look at all of the metadata, all the information that's been included. And then that one actually did have a data set option. Oh, sorry, not that one. But if you say you wanted to see the associated data relating to it, you just click on that data. And then it gives you an option of all the different data files that are already related. You click on the link, it downloads, and you're able to review it. Alternatively, if there is no data option that's showing up on the right-hand side, then that means that their data sets are not accessible publicly. So that's where those restrictions and licensing can come into play. And then that's where you would go into the metadata record, find the email contact, and if you're really interested in the data set where it might be currently hosted, that's where you can identify how to access it or who to contact at the very least. As I mentioned, the PDC does have other search options available. So we do have the Canadian ICE Service CH chart RadarSat data managed by the, provided by the Canadian Space Agency. And we do have a PDC Lite option for our researchers and users that are in low bandwidth areas. So this is, again, provides the similar options for actually searching the current metadata that's within the PDC, but just in a more bandwidth friendly way. So you would be able to create select a region, say Nunavut, a community, and then you just hit search and see what exactly, agree to our terms and conditions if you want to read it. And then it would bring up, again, all the different metadata that's available in the same structured way as the other one, but again, in a just bandwidth friendly way. Okay, and let's see. So that is our options. So again, different ways on how to navigate it, our different metadata or ways to view it, showing actually the available data sets, and then metadata versus available metadata versus available data, and accessing the data files. As long as you are actually able to see that data link, then that's when it comes up and you have accessible data. If no data, then it's not publicly accessible. And then Greg did demo our coming new feature of being able to search by research program. So that's being able to actually isolate your NCP projects, search all available NCP metadata and data sets in the one spot, which we're very excited about. And then just relating quickly to what Greg mentioned about the PDC API. So this is all work that's been done with the PDC team in conjunction with the CCATI, Canadian Consortium for Arctic Data Interoperability program or project, sorry. And so this compiles all of the available metadata in the participating consortium members, and it does produce it or show the results in both the new search option that Greg showed. There's a CCATI option that you can actually search not just PDC metadata and data, but all consortium members. But it also feeds into the Polar Federated Search. So this is an international project that's kind of doing similar things as CCATI. It's aggregating 19 different polar repositories and associated data into one spot. So you can actually just use any of the different search options. It brings you any available records that are there. You'd be able to click on any available records, and it brings you back to the original source. So if it was a PDC record, it brings you back to the record within the PDC interface, and you're able to access the data that way. And yeah, so I know I'm about 2 minutes over. My apologies. And yeah, I think this would be a great time if anybody has any questions. I know I ran through that fairly quickly. I'd be happy to show a demo of certain things again, or if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, happy to yeah, answer where I can.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chantal.